Hi, this is Ron from POCculture.com. Amber, Michael, how are you?
You have the best background.
It's amazing.
Look at us. You
Well,
have
the
this for,
beauty,
for every interview from now on. That's your
absolutely.
wallpaper.
It's such a beautiful series, and the art is amazing. So I had to pay tribute to that. Congratulations on the show.
So
Thank you.
much.
Uh, Amber, I want to start with you. I know that the idea for this show was inspired by your daughter when she was born. I understand she's much bigger now.
Yes.
And so, how does it feel to work on such a personal project? And have you had any feedback from your? Has she seen the show? Have you had any feedback from her?
She's 15. So
She's
not
excited for a premiere.
yes, yes. So it's hard to get your 15-year-old to say anything about the way they feel. But we will say that we she voices young Mizu, and as the inspiration for Mizu. It's such an emotional thing to watch this come into being. And every time we watch it, we hear her voice, which sounds a lot different now since a few years have passed. And yeah, it's so personal and so moving to see it all happen.
Yeah, I love that part of it. And for you, Michael, you've worked on the biggest and the best projects, Logan, Blade Runner. But by the way, are you aware of just how beloved Logan remains amongst, superhero fans? Do you have that
Uh,
awareness?
it's nice to hear, sir. Thank you. You are welcome to say it as many times you like.
Well,
I'm very proud of that film.
yeah, it absolutely still held up as one of the best superhero films ever. But given that, it must be extra special for you to get to work on a lot more personal of a project here. Obviously with Amber, based on your daughter, like was that experience unique and different for
Oh,
you?
wonderful. I mean, it's an original. It's something that came from our hearts. I love working with IP. And neither is better or worse. It's rarer now to get to work on an original. And usually, whenever you work on IP, people come out of the woodwork, tell you, please don't F this up, it's so important to me. But for me, like, this was so much more important to get right. This, like, I'll forgive myself a mistake in a book adaptation. I could not forgive myself if we had gotten something wrong here emotionally.
That makes sense. And I think that part shows, like in the storytelling and everything that personal passion really shows. Now, for Amber, you have a journalism background, so I assume that was helpful in terms of writing and research for all the research that went into this series. But what was particularly challenging or surprising to you doing this project?
The most challenging thing for me was to edit out what all of the amazing stories that could be told from history. I mean, it is just such a rich culture, so rife with amazing festivals and ceremony. I mean, just every time I read something, I had, 8 ideas for what we could do with one of our characters and doing that, and having to just sort of winnow it down and narrow our focus into, what we have now on the screen.
I can only imagine, especially all the research that went into it, that you have a mountain of stories you could have told. And to that point, I think, Michael, you talked about you needed to get it right. And I was really excited to read about all the research that went into it. I think you had a Harvard professor consult, you had a food consultant. Could you talk a little bit about all the research that went into it and the consultants that you used to make sure the authenticity of the series?
Absolutely. I mean, we work with Yukio Lippert of Harvard University, Eric Rath, who literally wrote the book on sushi. that you
It's
should,
called sushi.
it's called sushi. It's called Oishi, actually.
Oh,
And so,
no,
um,
you're right. Sorry.
uh, but when you're writing, look, research is fun, and research is an incredible excuse to not be writing. So at some point, we had to give ourselves permission to be like, okay, we've read this stack of books. We can't read we're never going to read as much as Yukio Lippert has read. So you have to give yourself over to experts and just start writing your story, do the best you can, and then show it to people and make sure that you have checks and balances for someone to go, you are taking too much of a liberty here. This is okay, this is not okay. And then just say, okay, help us. So now, of course, there are certain bends you would do, like, how can we help someone break into a castle? Like, okay, architecturally, would there be a sewer system on the east side? That is less important than culturally specific things. That's really where you want to get the most accuracy, because that's where the heart, that's where our stories come from. What was the culture of the time? What would people think and felt and worn and eaten? Those are things that we can make the effort to get it right. And I'm sure there's some error in there, and we will own it, but we tried our best, and hope we did okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's no such thing as perfect representation, but I think the research that went into it is critically important.
Okay, can I add one other thing? It's with our with the artists we work with, like our supervising director Jane Wu, there was so much passion into movement, into how people walk. Here's how a woman walks. Here's how a kimono moves,
and how someone would gesture.
Yeah,
it's specific to Japanese culture.
And again, just and then the martial arts, making sure like that's not how you would swing this type of sword. It takes so many people cared so much, and it was moving every day to see that people would fight to get certain things right. And the effort that went in on all levels to like, oh, then we have to fix that because that can't be wrong, because you have to get the culturally specific things correct.
Yeah, definitely. And Amber, to that point, I know a lot of the research focused on how women were treated and their status in the society in Japan during that period. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about the research that went into it, what you found and wanted to make sure was communicated in the story.
Well, ultimately, Mizu as a woman, she needed to venture out, and go on a journey of vengeance, and that was not allowed. It was for male samurai. Oh, you're going on your revenge quest? Yeah, good luck to you. And that was just a normal thing during the time. And so we needed to understand what would Mizu's options have been had she not led a life in disguise. And it was not good. I mean, she could be a daughter, a wife, or a prostitute. And then we have Akemi, who has the best version of a woman's life then, being a lord's daughter, being essentially royalty. And we see that even when you're given everything, like the best version, and we even have Mizu says a line about, you could have anything you wanted. You're like a magical forest creature, but you beg to eat trash. And she's talking about how she's chasing after some guy. And so we have to see Akemi, even in the best of circumstances, she has no agency. She has no control of her life. So yeah, there was a lot of books, one in particular, Selling Women, which was written by
Amy Stanley, I believe. If I got her name wrong, I apologize.
And then some great movies, Tale of Oharu and Lady Snowblood. It's another heartbreaking movie. Some of the other
it was
Double Suicide. There were just a lot of where you just see that you didn't have a lot of options as a woman. So we needed to tell that side of the story so we could see what was driving Mizu, what was driving her and her revenge quest. It wasn't just the desire for revenge. It was her circumstances in life.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of royalty, I have to ask you about this incredible cast, the Asian Avengers that I call them. What was it like to bring them all together? George Takei, Randall Park, Ming-Na Wen. Like, how did it feel to have all these talents on your project?
So excited. Yeah, it was so exciting to, have this amazing cast. And when they put all their pictures up in a line, I'm like, oh my gosh, we get them all. I got one of each. It's amazing. But it was so exciting. What was most exciting was how excited they were to join the cast, that we didn't have to do anything to really pursue them and talk them into it. They were told about our show, and some read the script, and they were just excited to be a part of this project with all of the Asian representation. And it was all Asian culture, an all Asian cast, and they could just kind of come as they are, be who they are, and celebrate, Asian culture.
And I'm bummed for you that the strike is still going on, because you should get to talk to them.
Yeah.
They're wonderful. They give a much better interview than we do. And hopefully the SAG strike ends in their favor soon.
Amen. Well, I couldn't put it better myself. Thank you both for your time. Congratulations on the series, and looking forward to future seasons.
Okay, thank
Same
you so
here.
much.
Thank you.